There's a new Chevrolet NASCAR car coming in 2026, but if you want to see it racing, you're going to have to head down south. I'm talking way down south. We got official word from NASCAR this week that Chevrolet is going to be launching redesigned cars next year that are going to replace the Camaros it races today. The new design's been approved. Ford and Toyota said they're okay with it, but we haven't seen what it looks like yet. However, we are getting a look at a new Chevrolet NASCAR car, just not for America. If you're a casual fan, you might not know that NASCAR sanctions series in other countries. There's one in Canada, there's one in Mexico, which it featured at the Clash at the Coliseum in Los Angeles a couple of years ago. It's got another one in Europe that races in several countries, and one in Brazil. Daniel Suarez actually went down there last year and won a race on the Interlagos circuit in Sao Paulo, the same one that Formula One races on. Well, that series is going to be launching what's essentially its next-gen car for the 2026 season, a fully redesigned vehicle. There's going to be a Ford Mustang and a Chevrolet. And when I say a Chevrolet, I mean a Chevrolet. There's no branding on it. Much like Chevrolet took the Camaro name off of the bodies of the NASCAR Cup Series cars this year and replaced it with Chevrolet since the Camaro's out of production. The car that it unveiled in Brazil has no Camaro branding, although it does look a lot like a Camaro. The current Brazil NASCAR Camaro, in fact. The Camaro was part of Chevrolet's lineup in Brazil. In fact, you can still find it on the Chevrolet Brazil website. Now, these cars are nothing like the cars raced in the Cup Series or even the Xfinity Series. It's an entirely unique design, though it does have a carbon fiber body and double wishbone suspension. There's also a 6-speed paddle shifted transmission and naturally aspirated V6 engines that are rated at just 360 horsepower. Cup Series car officially rated at 670 today. Although, sidebar for you Cup Series fans who've been hankering for more power, Brad Keselowski said last week that he's expecting the cars to get 750 horsepower in 2026. Didn't say if it's going to be at all the tracks, maybe just the short tracks, but it does sound like it's finally going to happen. But back to the NASCAR Brazil cars, another big difference between it and the North American series is that it is primarily a road course series. There's only one oval on the 9-race weekend schedule. Now, aside from the fact that it's a cool race car, why should an American NASCAR fan really care what's going on down in Brazil? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because we don't know what model the 2026 car for the US series is going to be based on. Might be the Corvette, might be an SUV. Maybe it's going to be something like this. In fact, it almost seems like the most logical outcome because they wouldn't have to change the body a whole lot. So as a NASCAR fan, would you care if Chevrolet just showed up at Daytona next year with a Chevrolet that looked like a Camaro but wasn't really a Camaro? It doesn't matter. Are you rooting for the brand? Are you rooting for the drivers? Before Camaro, Chevrolet raced the Chevrolet SS, which was a real production car, a sports sedan, but only sold them in the thousands, not even the tens of thousands, the thousands. So that really was more about promoting the brand than the model. It was a lot different from when it used the Impala and the Lumina, cars it sold a lot of. It almost seems inevitable that NASCAR will eventually switch to a crossover SUV style body like the one used on its electric demonstration vehicles it's been showing off the last couple years, the Chevy Blazer EV, Mustang Mach-E, and the generic NASCAR version. US automakers just don't make a lot of car models anymore. SUVs are where it's at, both for family cars and even performance cars. They're getting to be pretty fun, even the electric ones. And here's something interesting about Brazil, because along with the NASCAR Brazil series, there's another series called the Brazil Stock Car Pro Series. And that series recently switched to crossover style bodies, not unlike the NASCAR EV demonstrators. And as it turns out, Chevrolet is one of the manufacturers in that series where it competes with a vehicle based on an SUV called the Tracker. It's similar but not the same as the Chevy Trax that sold in the United States. While that seems like a pretty wimpy car to base a race car on compared to a Camaro or something that looks like a Camaro, the Stock Car Pro Series cars actually have more power than the NASCAR Brazil Series cars do. These 2.1-liter turbocharged 4-cylinders rated at about 500 horsepower. But like the NASCAR Brazil Series, that's also primarily a road racing series. Nevertheless, it is an example of how you can turn a mainstream crossover SUV with 4 doors no less into a pretty cool race car. Now, would American NASCAR fans accept that? I'm not sure. I think trucks make a lot more sense if they really need to refresh the Cup Series at some point to reflect what the market is doing. And I know we already have the Truck Series, but why not just bring that up to the Cup Series? I mean, it really wouldn't make a lot of difference as long as they were just as fast as the Cup Series cars we have now. And the next-gen chassis was designed to be very flexible, both for powertrains and body styles. Truck probably would require a bit more work than that switch from the coupe to the crossover for the electric version, but it certainly could be done. And it would make a lot more sense to do that for the Cup Series because it would be very expensive. The current Truck Series is meant to be a budget entry-level racing series. Some of the trucks racing today are years and years old, and it would be almost impossible to replace that whole series with next-gen style chassis at a price those teams could sustain, except maybe for a couple of the top-level ones. So where does that leave us with Chevy and the new American NASCAR? Well, I talked to the folks over there this week, and they told me they would let me know when they have more information to share, which isn't today, unfortunately, and they didn't say when that might be. Now, it's possible they'll wait until after the end of this season. They probably want to keep a spotlight on the cars and drivers that are still in the playoffs, especially if one manages to come out on top in Phoenix. But you can almost be certain they will reveal what the vehicle is before 2026. They're gonna have to test it, so they're gonna have to get it out in the public. Someone's gonna see it. I'm sure they'll do an official reveal. And it's fun to think about what it might be. One thing it's not gonna be is a Cadillac, at least from what NASCAR's head of competition, Elton Sawyer, said about the new body being revealed. He mentioned the name Chevrolet. So it's gonna be a Chevrolet, which means the leading candidate is the Corvette, as strange as that sounds, with the 8th generation Corvette being a mid-engine vehicle and one that Chevrolet already races in IMSA. That's if it doesn't go with the generic body style. The only other options that seem feasible for keeping it on par with the Mustang or Camry are adopting one of the crossover SUV front ends to the coupe body, which sounds very odd, or revealing that Chevrolet has an entirely new car that's going to be launching in 2026 or 2027, something that is not announced or even indicated it has in the works. So that's probably not going to happen. And if you're hoping there'd be a new Camaro coming to compete with the Mustang, there isn't going to be anytime soon. Chevrolet, General Motors has said this on several occasions. There's just not one in the works, certainly not in the short term. In fact, if it does ever come back, General Motors President Mark Royce suggested it would be a 4-door, which they'd be able to sell more of, a lot more useful than a coupe. And as far as NASCAR is concerned, that would be fine. Again, SS was a sports sedan. Before that, there was the Impala, which was a front-wheel drive car, not even a sports sedan. Of course, let's not forget, a new Chevrolet isn't the only thing on the way to NASCAR, because next year, Ram is returning to the Truck Series. That's official. They've shown it. Colleague Racing is going to be fielding up to 5 in some races, probably have 4 at every race. And the plan there is to set up the return of Dodge perhaps as soon as 2028. Now, there's no question what car that'll be. It'll be the new Dodge Charger, which launched as an electric vehicle, but will soon be available with a turbocharged straight 6-cylinder engine. Nope, that doesn't sound like a NASCAR engine, but the Toyota Camry only comes as a hybrid these days, so they're not too picky when it comes to mixing and matching powertrains. Nevertheless, there's a very good chance that the Charger is going to be available with a Hemi V8 pretty soon. Come to think of it, Chevrolet is on schedule to redesign the production version of the Silverado in 2027, so I guess it's going to be redesigning its Truck Series body then as well. Maybe not all that much, but there's definitely going to be a different look to it. It's a lot to keep track of, both on the track and off of it, and a good way to do that is to like this video and subscribe and check out American Cars and Racing every day for the latest automotive and NASCAR news.